Greetings. Welcome to the Numerovation Nation. I'm your brother and your host, King Simon. And this, as I've said before, particular channel is definitely dedicated to the Numerovation in you, but also a means of motivating all of you into understanding your numbers at a higher and better frequency. Now, this particular one is called the number one, could be the loneliest number. And what do I mean by the number one? I'm speaking specifically to those that are born under the one, the first of the month, the 10th of the month, the 19th of the month, and the 28th of the month. But I'm also speaking to those that when the number one passes through your numero scope or your numero chart, it's very important to pay attention to it. And those that have an abundance of ones or those that are lacking ones in their chart, because in the science or the metaphysics science of numerology, when we transpose letters into numbers, any of the numbers that may be missing or you might be lacking because it only has one or two of those numbers in your name, so to speak, that means that you're either lacking, or some may call it's a karmic number that you may have came back to have to fulfill in this lifetime. So very important to pay attention to all of the numbers, and I'll be going through a lot of the numbers in the future, but we're going to focus on the number one, like myself, who happens to be born on February the 1st. And that just means that my personal number is a number one. Now, if you look at people like, let's say, Brother Polite, born on February the 10th, that means his personal number is a one, but it has the zero frequency connected to it, which that one and zero means something. It's not just, a lot of numerologists will just go straight to the number one automatically because one plus zero equals one. However, in order for you to get a holistic meaning and understanding or interpretation of the numbers, pay attention to any number that follows the one, whether it's 10, 11, 12. That's just a series of the level of the number one when you're going into that aspect. But like I said, 10 is also a representation of the number one. And then you have people born on the 19th of any month. So that 1 plus 9 equals 10. And then that 10 plus 0, that 1 plus 0 equals 1. So people like Smokey Robinson was born on the 19th of the month. He was born on February 19th. So you pay attention to those different numbers. And then you have people born on the 28th of the month, like Bobby Hemmett. Bobby Hemmett was born on November 28th. So you pay attention to, and that's another series of the number one that can be a little bit indifferent because of the 2 and the 8. So before it gets to the 10, because 2 plus 8 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1. So there's a series of 1. When you start going past the 10, and I want to be very clear, when you start going past the 10, because 1 plus 0 is 1, that when you look at that 10, you're looking at two series or two frequencies of the number one. So because the 10 has its own meaning, and then the 1 has its own meaning. And don't forget that 0 has its meaning also. And then when you go to 19, the 1 and 9 has its meaning, but 1 plus 9 equals 10. So again, the person that holds the number 19 also has the 19, has the 10, and the 1 frequency, because 1 plus 0 equals 1. So every time I look at all of the numbers from a holistic perspective, like Dr. Africa taught me to do it, and he always said that to me. He said, look at things, and if those who have been at his class, he always said, look at things from a holistic perspective. So I chose to study more and more and not just limit myself to the breaking it down to the single digit number. Because if you understand those compound numbers, or what some people may call the composite numbers, which are the doubling of the numbers, that is very important too when you do a numerovation session to me, because it helps me to look again beyond the numbers, helps me to see beyond the numbers. It helps me to look around the numbers, get a full gamut about the person that holds that number. And it helps me to get a trajectory or track the numbers where it's going. And it also helps me to listen to what the numbers are saying when you get a full holistic meaning, whether you spelling holistic from an HOLISTIC, or you spelling holistic from the WHOLETIC, holistic. I think it's holistic. Forget the spelling. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying. So it is very important to recognize the different aspects of the number one, especially in any of the months, because everyone that's born in any month from January all the way to December, if you're born on the 1st, if you're born on the 10th, if you're born on the 19th, if you're born on the 28th of any of those months, your personal number is the number one. But every one of those frequencies has a different dynamic, has a different dimension to it. Every one of them. So let's go straight to the one, shall we? And we're only going to be up here for a few minutes. Like I said, I'm focusing on the 10 to 19 minutes because that's my one. And those that are born under the number one, your simple favorite days or favorite numbers should be based around the number one. Those are the frequencies that you need to resonate a little bit more. Although they might be other numbers that might be connected to you, but because you're born under that personal number 1 or 10 or 19 or 28, focus on those numbers. And what do I mean by focusing? As far as a numerovator is concerned, if I want you, or if I give you homework for those born on those numbers, and I say, look, you always have to have your vision, or you need to have goals focus around those numbers. So for instance, you want to complete goals within 1 day, 10 days, 19 days, or 28 days. You always look at those days, or even 100. It could go up to 100 days. Whatever you look, whatever it adds up to the number one, 1,000 days. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it adds up to the number one, 1,900 days. Whatever it adds up to as in regards to the number one. And if you're born under that number one, you could use those numbers to best benefit you, to help you to be on your highest vibration. So one in numerology is a circulatory number. It's a flowing number. It's a straightforward, straight, direct number. That's why when we draw the ones, usually it's like a straight line, and sometimes it's with a hook. Depends on where you're writing it from. Depends on if you're going to different languages, you find that one looks differently, but it's basically that straight line. And that's a straight eternal line that's going up, and a straight eternal line that's going down. So it's a circulatory linear type number that says that the one person is always straight to the point, direct, and one of the most direct and straight to the point persons in the number system are people born under the number one, because usually they say what they mean and mean what they say, like the number 9, but because they're so straightforward, some people can misunderstand their communication with them, and sometimes if people pay attention, their straightforwardness don't mean that they're here to harm you or upset you. They're just here to be direct. They want to cut through all the bull crap. That's one thing about me. I like to cut through all of the fluff. You know what I'm saying? I'll be reading a book and they're giving all this fluff, and I say, nah, I got to cut through all of this. So I need to go to the meat and potatoes, the veggie meat and potatoes. So it's very important that you understand the one circulatory, and one in the health field of numerology is the heart number. And because heart is connected to circulation, one is also the I number. So when you are born under the one frequency, you're supposed to be able to clear up your vision, clear up your eyesight, not just physically, but also spiritually. And when it comes to circulating or matters of the heart, you have to pay attention to your heart, not only physically, but also spiritually. So when you are connected to those one energies, especially when you start going into number 10 and those type of things, 10 is where the zero follows, and anything that precedes zero, especially in my system of numerovation, I always say that is the master number potential, because zero adds potential to any number that it precedes. It's just like when you look at your check, if you got $20, you know that's $20. But when you add zeros behind that two and it goes up to the six figures, guess what? You have like $2 million. It's like, whoa, now I'm getting paid. So imagine you go into a bank account or ATM and you knew you had $20 in there. Then all of a sudden there's a glitch in the matrix, and all of a sudden you got $2 million in your checking account. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't do this. So when zero is added to any number, it adds higher potential, add higher spiritual depth, because it's a circling motion. And remember, circles go both ways because everything has its duality. So it could either be a clockwise circle or it could be a counterclockwise circle, depending on the individual holding that frequency of the zero. So anytime I see people born on the 10th of any month, I know there's a certain extremity that comes with them, a certain energy and certain potential that they have, but some of them just need to tap into it. Now, if you're born on the 19th of every month, the 1 and the 9 is very dominant. So once you see that 1 and 9 in certain metaphysics, they'll say the 1 and the 9 represents the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the ending. And that's very good, because anybody born on the 19th, whatever they start, they have to finish. Whatever they begin, they have to end. In anything that they do. So you got to pay close attention to how those number frequency work. And then when you add the 1 and the 9, it adds up to the 10. So the extremities of the zero comes into play. And then it adds up to the 1. So the circulational number of the 1 still is in play on all three levels. So when I look at people born on the 19th, they have three levels of the number 1 with them. The 19, the 10, and then the 1. And then when you go to the 28, you'll find that people born on the 28 can be a little bit more sensitive than their previous or their predecessors, like the 19, the 10, and the 1, because the 2 and the 8 are two female numbers. And we're going to get into that on this channel, what the female and the male numbers and what the elements are. But when you have 2 and 8, then you have the compassion and the love and the balance that the 2 offers, and the 8 that adds up to, that deals with the ancestral and the old soul energy, but also deals with the financial energy, but also learning how to be spiritually advanced in regards to money and finance, but also spiritually abundance. That's what the 8 represents. So when you have the compassion number of the 2 and the loving number of the 2 and companionship of the 2 with the 8, which is that financial, not only physical, but spiritual finance, that makes the combination of 2 and 8. And then that 2 plus 8 equals 10. Again, going back to that 10 again, 3 levels of this number 1 again, but the 2 and 8 as another dynamic. That's why some numerologists will call the number 28 the divorce number. Interesting. And I've heard that said by one of my teachers, and Lloyd Strayhorn. You got to give people his props, because there's a certain element of compassion and a certain element of finance, but also a certain element of what we consider 2 numbers that can be that can work together, but sometimes clashes, because the number 8 sometimes is so into their business or the energy of their business that they negate the family time or the loving time and all that. So that's why when I see people born on the 28th, I always ask them what type of relationship did their mom and dad have? Because usually when a 28 person sees the relationship going left, they end up either attracting people like that or being like that themselves. But if they've seen a good relationship with their mom and dad, then they more than likely reflect that's the type of relationship they want because of the compassion and love and the balance, because 8 also represents balance also in its own perspective. So just remember, when you look at those particular numbers, look at all of the frequencies and look at things from a holistic perspective, a holistic perspective. And I'm more speaking on the WHOLE listic perspective, because it has to be whole. You have to look at things from a whole. We are not one-dimensional people. We have breadth, width, length, and much more, even in the spiritual realm. So in the number one energy that I'm breaking down is most of the number ones out there have to just pay attention to how they're circulating themselves, how they're offering themselves, how they're speaking to people, because their words can cut very deeply. Your words can cut. And I've noticed that throughout my life, that if I got upset at one period of time, especially in my club life and in my party life, because you're around that element of those type of things, and you never know when you're going to lash out. I remember lashing out at a girlfriend of mine years ago in the club, and she felt my vibration, although the music was on. She did something a little wild, and she didn't listen to what I said, and especially in the midst of the club, because I know clubs have a certain danger. She didn't listen to what I said, and I said something that penetrated straight through the music. I don't care how loud it was. Whoever was around us heard my energy or felt my energy, and her face changed because she realized that there was something that she did wrong. And that was in my club life in the 90s. So I know when you're in that midst of that era, and I'm born on the first. So the one is shaped like a blade or a weapon or whatever. And it can be used as such, as for good and bad. But that energy of the one has to be understood, has to be respected, and especially when it pops up in different times of your life, whether it's your personal month, your personal day, your personal year, whatever it may be, you got to pay attention to that one, because one also represents the new beginning, the new business, the new this, the new that, the new people, and what's so interesting, I got one book I wanted to share with you, because they said something about the number one, and and this is a good book. Like I said, I'll be sharing books on this station. And before I close out, because I'm only going to go up to 19 minutes, this is a good book that I just got, and this one is called Signs of the Universe by Wendy Robbins. I don't know if she's related to Tony Robbins, but she says about the one life path. She says, life path exercises for the number one should connect you to your values. Very important. For example, you'll write down your goals for the year or your top 5 life goals, such as owning a home or raising a happy family. If you struggle to find your goals, start by writing down what matters most. For instance, do you feel compassion and love are more important than money? For instance, let me repeat that. For instance, do you feel compassion and love are more important than money? Whatever it is, write down at least 5 values that are most important, and then create your goals from this list. Now, I would say write down 10, anything that vibrates with that number one, but that was very good from her interpretation. Like I said, most of this is about the interpretation, but anytime you see these numbers popping up in your life, whether it's your birthday, whether it's your destiny number, whether it's your name number, pay attention to what needs to be done in your life as far as the one frequency is concerned, because one is trying to lead you somewhere. On that note, family, I want to thank y'all for tuning in right here at King Simon, Brother King Simon on the Numerovation Nation channel. And I just wanted to give that brief breakdown about number one. And thank you. Remember, tune in. And if you want to do a numerovation session with me, please text me your full name and date of birth to 347-496-1022. Let's find the one in your chart and how you can maximize it and activate it for your benefit. It's all about Numerovation Nation, baby. Have a great day, afternoon, or evening. Peace.